In the mid-1980s, California was living through one of the most terrifying crime waves in its history. A nameless predator moved through the night, slipping into homes like a shadow, silent, unpredictable, unstoppable. He struck at random, leaving behind communities paralyzed with fear. This man would become known as the Night Stalker. But before his name filled headlines, he was simply Richard Ramirez, an ordinary-looking drifter shaped by a lifetime of violence and chaos. Ramirez's story began long before the terror. Born in Texas, he grew up surrounded by instability and trauma. His father's anger, the brutality he witnessed at home, and the disturbing influence of a cousin who exposed him to graphic stories of war all carved deep cracks into his psyche. By his early teens, Ramirez was already lost, stealing, using drugs, drifting through life with no direction, no boundaries, and no remorse. When he arrived in California, he carried nothing with him but addiction, rage, and a fascination with darkness. He roamed the streets at night, wandering through neighborhoods that had no idea the danger lurking just beyond their windows. And then, without warning, the attacks began. Ramirez didn't fit the mold of a typical serial killer. There was no pattern, no specific victim type, no consistent method. That unpredictability was what made him so terrifying. He targeted men, women, children, the elderly. He struck in wealthy suburbs and working-class communities. He broke in through windows, back doors, or simply walked into unlocked homes. Anyone, anywhere, at any time. Ramirez proved that no one was safe. As the attacks continued, fear spread like wildfire across Los Angeles. Families double-locked their doors. Hardware stores ran out of deadbolts and window bars. People slept with lights on, weapons nearby, and nerves on edge. Entire neighborhoods held their breath, waiting for the next news report, wondering where the Night Stalker would strike next. The randomness of the crimes made them incredibly difficult for police to connect. Different weapons, different behaviors, different victims. It was chaos with no clear signature. But there was one clue Ramirez couldn't hide: a unique shoe print from an uncommon Avia sneaker. Detectives followed the pattern, connecting crime scenes through that single piece of evidence. Slowly, the puzzle began to form. Meanwhile, media coverage exploded. The name Night Stalker dominated the headlines, amplifying public fear. Ramirez loved it. He followed news reports, delighted by the panic he created. He believed he was untouchable, an invisible predator feeding on the terror he spread. But his arrogance would lead to his downfall. A survivor provided a detailed description. Police sketches circulated, and soon, fingerprints from a stolen car matched the drifter's identity: Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez. For the first time, the Night Stalker had a name and a face. The breakthrough ignited the state. When Ramirez realized he had been identified, he panicked. He fled on buses, jumped between cities, and tried desperately to escape. But by then, the public was watching. In East Los Angeles, everyday residents saw him on the street. When he tried to steal a car, the crowd recognized the wanted killer. They chased him through the neighborhood, cornered him, and beat him until police arrived. The Night Stalker was finally caught, not by an elite task force, but by the very community he had terrorized. During the trial, Ramirez remained defiant. He smirked, flashed hand signs, and seemed to revel in the attention. His cold demeanor only deepened the horror of his crimes. But the evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted on multiple counts of murder, attempted murder, and assault. The jury sentenced him to death. Ramirez spent the rest of his life on death row, and even behind bars, he attracted morbid fascination. He never expressed remorse. He never apologized. He never took responsibility in any meaningful way. In 2013, he died in prison from complications related to cancer, decades before his execution date. Today, Richard Ramirez remains one of the most infamous criminals in American history, not just because of the brutality of his crimes, but because of the fear he created. He turned peaceful homes into battlegrounds, shattered the illusion of safety and reminded the world that monsters don't just hide in the dark. They walk among us, unnoticed, until it's too late. The legacy of the Night Stalker is a chilling reminder that danger can come without pattern, without warning, and from the last place anyone expects.